What's up, Metal Summoners? We are super stoked to be back here with us. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, coming at you on a little bit of a different day, and we appreciate your guys' understanding and appreciate all of y'all's patience as well as we come to you live right now on a Thursday night. For anybody who didn't see the guest announcements or I should say, if anybody who didn't see the heads ups that we did on the TikTok feed, I am solely to blame for why we didn't rock out on Wednesday night. Because to be honest, he's rocking it, I'm rocking it. I just communicated with the team. I wanted to go and see Kiss last night, so I talked to the guys and I was like, "Hey, I'm super stoked for a Tuesday show, super stoked for a Thursday show. Hell, we can even do both." But the Thursday worked out great, so that I was able to catch Kiss one more time before they wrap it up in New York. But so I really appreciate the guys being so super cool about doing that. But again, thank you so much, fans. The show is for you. It's about you, and you guys are going to have another great time. You're back on your island of misfit toys with myself and with Angel, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. We are taking a ride to Detroit Rock City today. First we drink, then we smoke. We want to welcome in Dupre. Carl, thank you so much, my friend, and welcome to the Metal Summit.
Thank you for having me. Awesome.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, this is kind of a Kiss tribute show to a certain degree, but we're going to talk about a whole lot of fun stuff. And like I mentioned before, you are the screenwriter of Detroit Rock City. But first and foremost, before writing Detroit Rock City, even though you are wearing the shirt, of course, were you a Kiss fan?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the story of Detroit Rock City begins in 1977 on the Alive 2 tour, which I caught at the Providence Civic Center. This is like back when dinosaurs ruled the earth, but Providence Civic Center, it's called something else now. I can't even remember. But that was the big concert hall in Little Providence, Rhode Island, and changed my life. And Kiss, I am a fan, and I don't know how many Kiss fans can relate to this, but I absolutely fell in love with the original lineup of Kiss, and that was my aim when I was writing Detroit Rock City, was to capture that moment in time. And Gene, Paul, Ace, and Peter. I mean, that was my lineup. And once they started changing things around, I don't know, and like I said, I don't know, maybe it's a hot take, but I don't think so. I felt like, oh, this isn't Kiss anymore. You stole my Kiss. You stole my Kiss. But anyway, as I went along, like I was able to retroactively enjoy a lot of the stuff that they did since then, and stuff that they did with Tommy Thayer and Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr and all that. It was kind of like I was like, I had kind of a resentment against the new Kiss, and it was kind of funny because when Detroit Rock City did happen, that original line, it was weird timing because they came back together right at that time, and I was like, I was thinking, I mean, nothing against, like I said, those other guys, Vinnie Vincent and whatnot, that's good stuff. Creatures of the Night, Analyze, all that stuff's great, but like I was like, oh, so they came back together for this movie that takes place at that time. So there was like an element of realism there, okay, this is the lineup that was performing at that time. And besides, I got to meet all of them, and a great privilege that was. Pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean that's where it all started. It started in 1977 on the Alive 2 tour. I had the double album and everything. It was my first Kiss record, was the Alive 2 record. That was the first one. And I had the tour book for a long time. I was kind of a irresponsible teenager.
Gotcha.
So a lot of stuff. All my record collection got destroyed when my basement flooded.
Oh,
my mom's basement actually. So it was all gone. So, but it was my fault. It was my fault for not caring about them more. But anyway, that's my story. That's my Kiss fan story.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're all Kiss people. I mean, we all got into Kiss from the ground level. I personally do have a real fondness for actually the non-painted era of Kiss. You know, of course, if I had it my way, we would still have the Kiss. I would have seen the Kiss last night as opposed to the lineup that they have had for 20 years. And I mean, with everything that Tommy's given me from my love of Black and Blue, as well as everything that Eric's done from his time in Alice Cooper, as well as, you know, his time in Badlands. Like those two guys can do no wrong for me. But I definitely understand when it comes to Kiss fans, when it comes to loyalty for like the originals. But the one thing that's also kind of like the interesting to me is like I liked the slight musical direction that they went with those other records, you know. And the funny thing is,
Oh, for sure.
the music seemed heavier when they were out of makeup for some reason. You know, they were putting out Creatures of the Night and a lot of those like type of songs that were coming out. They still had the lighter stuff. Like I love Crazy Nights, you know, I love Heaven's on Fire. You know, I love so much of that, the music that came out on Asylum and Crazy Nights and Creatures of the Night. But I mean, I still grew up though with Love Gun and Black Diamond as two of my be-all go-tos. So when you were, and so before I kick it over to the guys, when it came to putting together the screenplay, I'm just kind of casually curious how the idea of like mystery came about, with, you know, having the guys and you know, wanting to be their own Kiss band.
Oh my God, that was so funny. I was working on I worked as an assistant editor before I became a screenwriter, and I worked on the old celluloid method. There were no computers. We were cutting and splicing and taping, and we used like tape and like these reels that went through the projector. It was like I said, it's the age of the dinosaurs. But I was working on a movie with a gentleman named Peter Schenk, who, I mean, if his name sounds familiar, he's the guy who was one of the editors on Detroit Rock City, and kind of instrumental in the process of getting it made. But I was working on this movie. I was working on it must have been, I think it was the Stoned Age, that had to have been it, which is like this cult. It's this cult movie. It takes place in the 70s, but we were talking about, like, we both did that as kids, as I'm sure like you guys did. You know, it's like you
dress up,
you start a band, like, let's do it. Let's get a band going. And like, whose basement are we playing in this week? You know, and we get our stuff, and he was talking about, yeah, and like, you were always looking for that perfect name. What's the perfect name for the band? We need a good name. Like, the name was almost like the most important thing. It's like the Roger Corman School of Filmmaking. You know, start with the poster. Oh no, start with the title, then you have a poster. Then after that, come up with the movie. But we needed like a band name. So he was like, he said, and he did it in like this kind of stoner voice. He's like, mystery, like that. And I was like, yeah, that's like something like I would have come up with in one of my bands. And I was like, and they make the S look like the S is this. I was like, make the S look like that. And then the next thing I know, I'm writing it into this script. You know, when I did this script, I'm like, oh yes, mystery, definitely, with the S shaped like the Kiss S's. But yeah, that's definitely, you know, that was a part of my youth. And you know, the filmmaking career was second only to my dream of becoming a rock star. And so, you know, I took the consolation prize. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But you know, that was like at the forefront. Like, you know, that was it was a great phase, and I learned how to play guitar during that time. You know, I kind of taught myself guitar, and I learned how to play Stairway to Heaven first. I even learned how to play the solo. Well, I'm not sure I could do it anymore, but I even learned how to play the solo. You know, that stuff. You know, it was like, you know, I was serious. I wanted it. I wanted it, but you know.
Hearing you say that actually makes me laugh, because it reminds me of a previous interview that Angel and Bobby and I did with Penelope Spheris from Wayne's World. because it was the anniversary of Wayne's World, and it's that scene, of course, where he's about 2 strokes in when the the cashier guy stops him, and he's like points at the sign. He's like, "No stairway, denied." Bobby, yes, over to you, my man.
So, Carl, I gotta say one thing. I'm so glad I'm not the only old fart on this show right now. You're only a year younger than me, but you know, God, I can't believe I'll be hitting 60 next year.
Oh my Lord!
So I'm leaving early in the morning tomorrow. I'm heading to New York. I'm doing both shows. I'm going to be up there shooting and doing everything. And the last show, I got to thank Mr. Doc McGee and Keith LaRue for hooking us up for doing I don't even know what's going to happen that day, but this movie, look, I do a KISS radio show with a guy, Matt Porter, which we do it once a month. And I've been a KISS. My first show was 77.
All right. Right on.
Billy, Spectrum, rock and roll over tour.
Spectrum, nice.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, so this is signed.
Oh, snap! Look at that. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Got original rock and roll over from the artist here.
It's a dream.
Yeah, one of Paul's guitars, jeans jacket here with the fist on it. So I got to ask, getting back to the movie, was this
beautiful?
When you came up with the movie, was it based on you or your friends? I mean, was this something that, this, and how did you find the characters? Did you, with Ed Furlong, did you look for somebody who emulated your friends?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely, 100%. Not like autobiographical per se, but those characters were inspired by friends that I had during that time.
We all had friends we still have friends like that.
Yeah. It was the old formula. There's an old formula. There's like this Wizard of Oz formula, right down to we need like the 4 people. Like we need 4 people in this story. I don't know. I'm sure there's a psychological one. You need the ego, the id, the super id, and the super ego, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But anyway, I said to I was like, all right, what if because I was in 77, I was 12 years old.
Yep.
Technically 11 when I saw that show because it was before my birthday. But I was 11 years old, so I'm like, I want to make these kids a little older. So I took the kids that I went to high school with. So that was in the 80s, you know what I mean? Yeah. And these guys that I wound up in my senior year in high school, and there were 4 of us. Tom, and Sean, those are my buddies in high school. And yes, so Hawk was based on one of the Toms, and Lex was based on the other one of the Toms, and then Jam was based on me, and then Trip was definitely Sean. Trip was definitely Sean. Sean was more it was more booze than drugs. I'm sorry. I don't want to we were teenagers. Teenagers when we were drinking. But anyway,
we all did that. It was
no, I know, but
and it was all the goofy stuff that made you sick.
Yeah. So that was what I did. I based those characters on those guys, even though that we never saw KISS together. We wound up seeing the Police and U2 together. Those are the bands that we wound up seeing because it was that time. It was that era. But I said, what if I went with these guys? And they kind of characters, that was this jumping off point, because characters, when you're writing, and not to get too much into the mechanics of writing, but characters just begin acting on their own and talking on their own, and plots progress the way they want to. I mean, you can try to enforce your structure on it, but every once in a while, stories take left turns and they do unexpected things. But anyway, that was the inspiration for those characters, with these dudes that I went to in my senior year in high school specifically. Also when I was writing the script, like I went over all the stories in my head. Like I said, I kept going to concerts and all kinds of concerts over the years, and I would talk to people. When I was writing the script, I would say to people, like, what was something you remember about a concert that you went to, like a rock concert specifically, but like a concert, you know, any kind of concert. What do you remember about that? Because I wanted to capture something. I wanted to, like, they've got the tickets. It's the morning of the concert. They got the tickets. That's such an exciting thing. That was like such an exciting thing for me.
Waiting in line at the, you know, the mall, for hours, standing there.
And if they're out and you got those tickets, and it's like, dude, this is it. Tonight's the show. Oh my God. Like, so that was, I wanted to create that atmosphere from start to finish until the time you get to the show. So like the stories that I was looking for mainly were the ones that happened before the show, like what happened in the parking lot, or what happened online when you were waiting online, anything that would inspire me.
Hey, kid, give me your tickets.
Yes. And the funniest story, this was actually something that I put in the shoebox back in like I was working at this restaurant. This guy told me about how he went to a concert. I think it was The Who actually, but he went to this concert, and the way he got in was they were in a car. It was a bunch of them in a car, and it was like, tonight, The Who. Like they're driving by this. I think it was Gillette Stadium or so. This is in Massachusetts. And I think it was Gillette Stadium. And it's like, hey, I know how we can see them. So like they pull into a parking space. They don't have tickets. You can guess what happens, right?
Yeah.
They all get out, and like one kid just goes, all right, beat the shit out of me, to the other three guys or the other two guys, or whatever. And they just started wailing on each other. And then like they ran and they go, okay, come on, follow me. It's like, dude, they like run up. Like somebody mugged us and took our tickets. And they got in. They got to see the concert. And it was like, that's it. Like, I remember, like, everybody. I'm sure everybody who's watching this now at least saw the movie or knows how it ends. But
right,
like I was like, oh man, like that story is gold. You know what I mean? Like that's gotta.
Oh, it's classic. But it's great that you threw a lot of this, not even in Detroit Rock City, but getting back to like Jay, you threw it into some of the horror movies too, because you really got to change it up and make it go, okay, how can I make this a little believable?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's my, I think everybody who gets into doing something like this, no matter what you're doing, if you're a creative person, you notice that there's, how can I put it? There's a void. There's like an emptiness, and you're like, why isn't anybody putting anything there? Like I want to see something there. Like that's whether you're a musician or a dancer or a writer or a director. It's like there's something missing, and I got to do it. I guess that's what you say. He's like, well, you know what? I'm going to have to do this, and that's what I do with all my work. Is I'm a real, like, I think my my career maybe could have been different if I knew how to like brand myself and how to capitalize on the things that I did before. But I always wanted to do something different, and something original. It's like people. I can tell you how many times it's like, you got to write another movie about, because I'm like, well, I don't have any stories about kids right now. They're like, this is a big hit movie. Come up with something. And I'm like,
I want you to do like Goonies 2 or something,
Yeah. Well, the thing that I did was like, I wrote that. That's when I wrote a horror script right after Detroit Rock City. I wrote a horror script, which opened the doors for all the horror movies that Jay was talking about there. He has in his collection. It was like this, yeah. So, but I mean, I follow my muse wherever she goes. I just follow. I'm like, I'm a slave. I'm on a leash. That's. But I think that's an important part about doing this is like just being true to yourself and being original. And I mean, that's not to say if you're good at doing something and you don't mind doing it, and you're doing like something over and over again, that's great. That's great.
Before I throw it up to Angel right now, would you ever consider doing something like a trick or treat where you would combine two, the music and horror together? You know?
Oh yes, yes,
You know,
that is.
like,
There's definitely a story in there, and I think about this quote often. I can't remember where I read it. Actually, I'm gonna bastardize it. I'm gonna totally mess it up. But Robert Englund came up with it, and he said, you know, it was a better quote than this, but he just went. He said, horror is the heavy metal of movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. I was like, that's it. He summed it up.
The best person we seen was a year and a half ago was Lizzie Borden when he came out with a 3-face mask and did a half-hour set at M3 in Maryland. Best show. I stuck with me more than anything, and I kept going. Somebody needs to do more. Thank God we still have Alice out there. We still have. I want to see theatrical, amazing rock. And people are going to get pissed. I'm going to say this, but I don't want to see Mayonnaise Kiss Ghost. Which give me that good old shock rock, scare the shit out of me. Give me that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was doing this today. Like I do these little like videos, like everybody does now. You know, these little like just create some quick content. But my thing was like A Christmas Carol. That's a horror story. That's full on horror. That's a scary. And I'm like looking at stills from the various movies that they make of Marley taking that thing off and his jaw just drops open to an unrealistic it's unhinged basically, his jaw, you know. And then the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. So I'm like putting this quick video together, and I'm like, I remember that like, there's a bell ringing at the end of the story that wakes him up. Actually, he hears this bell ringing. You know, hey boy, what day is it? Oh, it's Christmas. All right, okay.
Oh yeah, you mean a Christmas Carol, not a Christmas Story.
A Christmas Carol. Did I say a Christmas Story?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
the leg. Yeah, the leg.
Well, okay. All right, let's rewind that then. Can we edit that? Oh, shucks. No. All right. Anyway, A Christmas Story. Yeah, it was horrifying. That leg.
That would be funny if they took that and did a horror spoof on it.
Yeah, and he really did put his eye out. It was really gross when he put his eye out
with a stiletto heel from the leg.
We'll give you that one. You could do
A Christmas Story.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, everybody. I guess a little brain fart there, but A Christmas Carol. So Scrooge and all that. Yeah. So I took these images from all these scary images from various versions of it. And then I was like, what song should I put? And I was thinking of the bells, and I'm like, well, For Whom the Bell Tolls, right? And I put the music to it, and it's just the opening. It's like, and it works with the scary images. And I'm like, that works so well. You know, that's like really good. And you could do, you know, I was thinking about Hell's Bells also. That would have worked. I should try that too. But anyway, you get the concept.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Heavy metal and horror belong together. Yes, you are absolutely right. And that would be a tremendous project.
That'd be so good, for sure. Angel, let's kick it up to you, man, before we get too far into horror, because we'll have plenty of time for that. But it looks like we've got some Kiss comments.
Oh, yeah.
I guess we get to Tommy. He wants to know, how old were you when you got your first Kiss T-shirt, and what is your favorite Kiss possessions, like both posters or concert tickets?
Oh, yes, to all that. So I was probably about 16 when I got a Kiss T-shirt, and I got it. I thought it was really cool looking. It's not the one that's hanging up behind me right now. That's a Kiss farewell tour, but it says 1973 to 2000. So that's when I saw them again. It was once again with the original lineup. But I was 16 when I got like my first official Kiss T-shirt. Before that, like I said, I had the Kiss tour book. I don't have that anymore. One of the great things that happened. The Kiss swag that I have now is totally thanks to Detroit Rock City, and I had a lot more of it too. But I'm one of the, like, I'll meet people who they're just really big. They're fans of Kiss first and foremost, but they're also like genuinely they like talk about this movie. I didn't realize how many people saw this movie when they were young. Like, I was making this for my generation. I wrote the movie for my generation, you know, and we made it R-rated too. So I was like thinking, all right, people my age are going to go see this. But I run into people who they saw it when they were very young, and they talk about how, like, when you see something, when you experience something at that age, it leaves a huge impression. I mean, especially if you respond to it. And so I like had these baseball caps. I had the old concert, you know, the old Jersey style concert T-shirt for Detroit Rock City. It was mostly Detroit Rock City, but the Kiss, my prized possession is a Kiss Army leather jacket.
Nice.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's hanging up in my mom's basement. How do you like that? How's that for irony? But it's back home in Rhode Island. But it is beautiful. It is absolutely. Didn't make the trip over here to California, but that has to be like number one. That's the number one Kiss possession. I have and most of the other stuff is the Detroit Rock City stuff, but I mean, the bus ad. I have like this 8-foot by 10-foot bus ad
On this,
a bus station ad for Detroit Rock City also. But the leather jacket and that bus ad are like the two prized possessions.
Nice.
That I have. Yes.
All time. What is you guys' favorite all time Kiss song of all time?
is he going deep cut or is he going what?
No,
All time favorite.
Yeah.
All time. I know it's a little unfair, but that's a little unfair. But I'll tell you, so obviously my favorite all-time favorite Kiss album is Destroyer, which I think that you know most people would agree is kind of like that's a pinnacle right there. But let me would it be Destroyer? Would it be off Destroyer? Because I'm thinking Love Gun. I'm thinking
Love
like
Gun,
that.
Yeah, the Love Gun album.
The Love Gun. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say like a song that I could probably listen to over and over again until the cows come home is God of Thunder. I think like I could just listen to that.
Nice.
Like, endlessly. Like, it's such a fantastic. It's probably one of their best produced songs. I think it's probably one of their best written songs. And Gene, like that best vocals. I think that's like his high water mark of vocals also. So that hopefully that answers that question.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because Gene kind of does like the heavier songs.
Yeah. Yep. Cold Gin, right? That was another good one.
My first box set was I got the originals. Remember when they did the first 3 albums grouped together, and it came out that. But I really love Dress to Kill, but there's something about the Hotter Than Hell album.
Hotter Than Hell.
Parasite is just,
yes,
blind. I mean, some of those songs are so dark. Watching You, I mean, and then the first Alive album is just kicks you in the butt. I mean, it's just like, wow. And I still look at the 2 dudes on the back. That's what reminds me of Detroit Rock City, the movie, is the 2 guys on the back of that album cover.
That's wild.
Because I could picture them in the movie.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Jeez.
Yeah.
Whatever
Like a
happened to
movie,
those
something
two
like that.
guys?
I know. That's too funny. But like I just thought of something with that song Cold Chin. And I was listening to that recently, and like that song is like they don't write songs like that, like with not at least, I'm sure there's some bands doing this, but like if you listen to that song, it has like several chapters to it musically, and just the complexity of like going from one musical bit to the next, so it's like
Carl,
verse,
not
chorus.
to interrupt you on this, but Ace was just on Eddie Trunk today, and he talked about it, and he said how trashed he was when he was on the subway, and he wrote it on the way there, and it was just like he
Oh
came
my
up with the whole
God.
riff. And
Oh
so
my
I think, I think that's amazing you bring it up.
Yeah, well, it's like it's all like arranged and like these different little guitar parts just.
But he said he was so aced.
I believe it. I believe it. Yep, that's right.
Like you said, nobody can, they'll never write songs like that again.
No. I don't. I think Metallica may have done some stuff like that on their. I don't know. There's they've done some complex songs like that. But I don't know. It's like not a general thing. It's like verse, chorus, whatever. Middle eight, I guess, and then verse, chorus, fade out. I don't know. Like it seems like there's a lot of that still. I mean, there was a lot of that going on in my era. And I mean, who doesn't? You know what? AC/DC. Like, come on. Like they kept it simple. Like that's my idea. Like somebody like they're doing the same thing, but they're so good at it. Like what a song. They do it over and over again, but what a song. It's great.
They're like the Chick-fil-A of rock.
Yes, exactly.
Don't need to do anything else.
That's right. But that is hilarious that I was recently watching interviews with Ace, and just that laugh, like, just like him, just like, I don't know if he was ever, I don't think I've seen one sober interview with him, but it's so good. Oh, here we go. Like, you got an answer to your question, Bobby. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so cool.
What's that?
They did a reenactment. They did a reenactment of the picture. Those two guys on the back of a lot that you were talking about.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's really cool.
Oh, that's a trip.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
That would have been pretty cool actually in Detroit Rock City if the camera passed.
If you could have brought them in as a cameo, that would have been.
Yes. Missed opportunity.
Look, you never know. Look, you could do one about the last show. You never, New York Rock City. Who knows? Sequel.
The sequel.
They're doing Spinal Tap.
Yeah, they're doing
Spinal Tap. Hey, everybody likes a redo, Carl. We're not saying anything. You could bring, and you could incorporate a horror movie. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But
No, I like that. And you know what? You reminded me. Somebody contacted me recently. And it was a brilliant idea to do like a musical of Detroit Rock City, like they do with like they did with like Hairspray, and what they're doing with Mean Girls.
Kip Winger did one about he put it out, and it really a while ago about Jack the Ripper. He was working on it.
Cool.
And Sweeney Todd, you have stuff like that. So it would work. I think look, if Meatloaf did, I was in New York when he did his thing, and who the hell else did one that took a dump? Spider-Man, U2. Remember?
U2, Spider-Man. That's
that was horrendous.
Right. Well, I mean, if you did a musical of Detroit Rock City, the songs are already there. They've already been written.
Yep.
You could have the characters singing these songs that punctuate.
Who was it? Queen did it, so why not? So,
that's wild. And Neil Diamond did it. Neil Diamond, Bruce Springsteen. Billy Joel, Paul Simon.
Alanis Morissette just
Yes.
did hers. So, look, hey, stranger things have happened.
Absolutely. But yeah, I like that. I do like that idea of the metal. I had a story like that, the sort of metal horror movie. The old trope of selling your soul for rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
hasn't been done yet.
something. Yeah, I mean, it's
Call me, Carl. I'm your boy for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in there. The neat thing is doing it on a spin. And I wouldn't, and here would be my thing. Look, we have women in rock who are kicking ass. You have a Anita Strauss, you have a Lizzie Hale, but doing it on that end, instead of making it a sausage party, why not make it an evil?
I like it. I like that. Oh, make it a coven,
oh yeah, I mean,
coven who becomes a band.
Look, because who's the metal band, Jay, that we've seen the Witches, Burning Witches.
Burning Witches. Oh my God, yes.
From Switzerland. Actually, and Courtney Cox from the Iron Maidens just joined them.
Yeah. Well, here's a title. Here's a temp title, but I think it's already been taken. But not for this specific story. Hell's Bells. BELLES. Hell's Bells. So I don't know. Maybe you could.
Well, this is all up to you, but I really think somewhere there's something in this where you go that route where
I like it. I'm down. I mean, I'm down. It's in there.
You steal a little bit of
the seed, man.
You steal a little bit of the School of Rock, the chick who gets picked on.
Yes.
Take a little bit of Mean Girls and turn it into
It's like The Craft. It's like The Craft, but they're rock music. They get into they start doing heavy metal. They start
now he got his gears going. Look, if it's not this, it'll be a hell of a book.
You know what? Yes, absolutely. Oh man. And I mean that would actually, if I wrote the book first, it would be an easy sell to become a movie.
Well, you think about it this way. Look at Five Nights at Freddy's. How something cute and funny turned into an icon thing. Stuff. And what was the other? Goosebumps. How Goosebumps really?
Oh yeah. I saw this movie recently, Skinamarink. It scared the living daylights out of me. And it was about two little kids, and it was all atmosphere. It was 100% atmosphere, but it was one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. There was no music. There was hardly any sound in it. It was like analog horror. You know what I mean? It was deliberate. It was it deliberately was made to look like it was recorded on videotape. You know what I mean? And it's old aging. It's
like Blair Witch
scan lines. Yeah. Kind of like that, but it was its own thing though. It really was its own thing. It wasn't like found footage, but it was made to look like found footage, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? It was done it was filmed with old video equipment, and it really was something else. But I do like that, and I like the concept of the cute lead, the cute as a channel, as a conduit to scary. I really do enjoy that. And I went on this little craze for a while. There are a lot of tribute bands that are all female, like AC/DC, Metallica, Motley Crue.
The Iron Maidens are
the
amazing.
Iron Maidens. Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was really digging this. I'm like, this is a cool little niche, I guess they call it now.
Yeah, there's a Ramones tribute band in New York that's all female. They're called Rockaway Bitch.
That's a good name. Rockaway Bitch. Oh man.
It's like anything. If you can go out and do it that way, it's I think it is. You know, I was just with Nita. She's out on the road right now supporting her solo band, opening up for Wolfgang Van Halen. And I love that she can do this, but she holds her own. You know, she's that person. That's why I think in horror movies, we don't see that many female villains. I mean, other than what Disney puts out, but, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it
There's-
be,
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
There's more than you think.
yeah, but you know, it's kind of good to see. You know, it'd be great to see that girl guy. You know, I love the Carrie type movies, the ones that scare the shit out of you. That going, oh yeah, I shouldn't have picked on her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's well, you're familiar with the Ring series.
Yeah.
The Japanese. You ever see the Japanese one?
Ringu.
Ringu. Yes. That's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. That's one of those. That's like up there with The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in terms of like.
Well, I know they're putting the TV show out of what is it, the Japanese thing where people get killed, but they're doing it very. The hell is it? It's just getting ready to get pushed on ABC. It's they have the masks and everything. It's the whole groups, and they die off. And
it wasn't Squid Games, was it?
yes, it's Squid
Okay,
Games.
yeah.
ABC just picked it up.
Well, that's a Korean one, but yeah, that's yeah, absolutely. Squid Games, that was awesome. That was awesome. I loved it.
I was a big Hostel person. I loved all the Hostel movies. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's good. Eli Roth. He got a big they're doing a Thanksgiving 2 already. I haven't even seen the first one yet, but from what I understand, it's a real good sort of rip your head off old fashioned horror slasher.
Nice
picture like from the old days. Yeah, that from what they say.
I mean, that Cabin Fever movie from back in the day really caught everybody off guard. I mean, that movie did for shaving legs what Jaws did for the beach, man.
I know that movie that was good and yeah, that they found or he did Eli Roth found a new way to tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
And it did make you afraid. It's like, do I have the flesh-eating bacteria now? Is that what's going on? That was a real thing. The flesh-eating bacteria is a real thing, and that's
And ironically, Trip was in Cabin Fever.
Yes, Jamie DeBello.
Absolutely, for sure.
Fantastic.
Let me jump in for just a second to intersect here because I do want to kick it back up to Angel. Give him a little bit more time on the mic as well as any other questions currently with the fans as well.
Please, yes, ask away. I'm all ears.
I love this question. What do you think of the Kiss version of God Gave Rock and Roll to You?
That is one of the best songs. Period. That's just a great rock and roll song. Number one, just a great. But their performance of it is masterful and just awe-inspiring, and that is just a fantastic song. That just gets you pumped. That's a song. It's like Freebird. It's just you get to the end of that song, and you feel like you've been on a journey. I mean that's for me, at least for me personally. So I love it. Yes. 2 thumbs up. I'm not worthy, but God gave rock and roll to you. That is just a great song.
Can you describe your life in 60 seconds?
I just cried my life. All right. Okay. Start the clock. Creative writer who is just a lover of the arts, and I'm a dad to 2 wonderful children who I don't want to tell you how old they are, but anyway, they're the best, and I do what I have to survive. And so far, I've been able to make an honest buck, and it's been great. And I am a very, very lucky man. I'll just tell you that. Lucky writer, lucky father, and appreciator of the finer things in life. I think the finer things in my life. The world is a fascinating place, and they say life is a tragedy for those who think. I'm sorry, life is a tragedy for those who feel, and life is a comedy for those who think. And I like to think that I think more than I feel. But anyway, there you go. Did I do it? Did I hit the 60-second mark?
Yes, you did.
Woo!
Oh,
Speaking extemporaneously,
Yes.
I remember I used to have those assignments in school, and I just get up and be like, I can't do this. Just give me the F. I can't do this. Anyway, it's a privilege now. It's a privilege now to be able to do that. But anyway,
well,
yeah,
when it comes to writing horror, have you ever just gone anywhere, just to, just for that purpose of just writing? Have you ever needed to do that?
Okay, so you mean to draw inspiration, or
Yeah, or to write.
So writing horror, well, 99% of writing is done here. I do have a place. I do have like a place where I do my writing. All my writing is done. Like I have a laptop, and it's in a very specific place in my apartment, and I am already like I start a story, and I already know the end of it before I start. But like I study, like I read books, and I watch, a lot of it's like documentaries on actual things, usually like sort of true crime type stuff. I'm more of a fan of like unsolved mysteries, and I mean in general, not just like the TV show Unsolved Mysteries, but like I'll read ghost stories. I'll listen to like true crime podcasts, or like there's so many different genres of things. Like I was listening to this I'm sorry, it's not a podcast. It was a video on the. It's called the Cryptid Iceberg. Have you ever heard of this? You know what the icebergs are, right?
Yeah.
There's an iceberg. Okay, so this was the Cryptid Iceberg, and like I want to say like Bigfoot was at the top, and then Loch Ness Monster, and they had all these like unknown, they had all these things. I never heard of these creatures before, but like those are things that inspire me to some degree. And then, I mean, besides that, my brain is geared toward. I think if I don't know, I have this imagination that, like, I get scared. I think that's the secret. I don't know. I'm trying to keep this answer simple and short, but I get scared. I can be scared by almost anything. And if I don't write it out, I'll have trouble sleeping at night. But if I write it out, I find I can sleep pretty good. But the least little things can scare me, and it's usually things that don't really scare anybody else, but I'll find some horror in it. I was walking on this bike path one day, and I was by myself, and there was these people coming toward me, and they looked harmless enough, but I just started thinking to myself, because they were really far away. I was like, suppose the closer they get, like the more they're not really human anymore. Suppose they start looking like all weird and stuff. And like I had this like sort of movie happening in my head. And you know what I did? I put my eyes down, and I put my hands in my pocket, and I kind of scrunched myself up, and I didn't look at them when they went by. Like that's how my brain works though. And I had to write that out. I had to write a story about some bad things that happen to people who make eye contact. It's called eye contact. Who make eye contact with people that they're passing on a bike path. So that's an example of like just my brain being, just kind of like geared toward, I mean, it's just the bottom line is I get scared easily, and not by much. It doesn't take much to scare me. but I like to think that is the thing that benefits me when I'm writing.
Carl, what was the first horror movie that scared the shit out of you?
Oh my God. Oh my God. That scared the shit out of me. All right. Are you familiar with a movie called 5 Million Years to Earth, or it's also called Quatermass and the Pit?
Mm-hmm.
I saw that when I was like 5 years old,
Really?
and it scarred me. It scarred me. It was unbelievable, and I mean, I think it holds up pretty good today, actually, because they kept it simple. You know how like a lot of times movies kind of from the '60s they kind of fall apart special effects wise, but they kept it simple. They kept all the effects were like done. They weren't like big effects. Well, and almost all of it was up here. It's like things that were suggested. You know what I mean? But 5 Million Years to Earth or Quatermass in the Pit. That was like
yeah, mine has to be House on Haunted Hill with Vincent.
Nice. Yes.
Or Rosemary's Baby. When I was
Rosemary's
little,
Baby.
sitting in the back seat, my parents had a fucking drive-in scaring the piss out of me.
Oh, that's so
I'm
funny.
like watching Rosemary's Baby in a drive-in.
In the drive-in, holy cow!
So think about that. You know,
I know.
like I forget even who the director of that was. Wasn't that which child who was killed by Manson?
Oh, Roman Polanski.
Yeah, it was Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roman Polanski.
Yeah, I think how effed up that was. Yeah, I had great parenting, didn't I? That's why I'm a kid fan.
The movie that I saw at the drive-in, it's not really. It was Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. I saw it at the drive-in. Oh Lord, look at this! They want casting.
Wow.
They want casting decisions.
Oh.
Oh my goodness! Well, you guys. All right. Oh my God! All right. So,
Yeah.
what's that? Yeah, you got. Who do you want to play you?
I would do my Spicoli.
Oh yeah. Sean Penn.
Okay.
Sean Penn. I think Glenn Danzig is okay. Glenn Danzig? Oh yeah. No, Angel, the bass player from Metallica.
Oh yes, Rob Trujillo.
What's his name? Trujillo.
Rob Trujillo.
Yeah,
We say that every week.
Yes.
We call him that every week.
Yes. You're like his doppelganger. You kind of are. I mean, that's.
I do like say that.
Yeah, why can't we got to get you to forge his signature now, Angel?
Yeah.
But there you go. There's your Metal Smmit movie, the Metal Smmit.
Yeah.
Seriously, for sure. Starring Robert Trujillo, Glenn Danzig, and Dolly Parton. And Dolly Parton, Bobby Dreyer.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, there you go. She could pull it off. She was pretty good in 9 to 5. I don't know.
Hey, hey, look, I'm a huge Dolly fan, but
I love it. I love how she dressed up as a cheerleader. That's like I didn't even see the
look, I'm gonna be 77 and be able to dress like a cheerleader.
That is that's epic, is what that is. That is epic.
Oh, for sure.
That is metal.
So
that is metal.
So it's funny, Carl. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. So I've told this story a couple of times on some Halloween and horror podcast interviews that I've done. So back in my day, when because honestly, and I'll die on the hill for this argument, like slumber parties just aren't as cool nowadays as they ever were back in the day when there was no social media, there was no phones, there were no allergies.
Yeah.
Everything literally, it all operated the exact same way. It all operated the exact same way. Like the house was designated for the chaperone. All the kids went there. They ordered pizza because, again, there was no allergies back then, so everything was fine. You went to Blockbuster, and that was the key. You went to Blockbuster. You got the they turned a blind eye to whatever movie you wanted to get. But anyway, I was like 6 years old. They showed, it was a movie from the 70s. It was called Lair of the White Worm. It was an old Hugh Grant movie. And
Ken Russell.
Yep. And that's the first horror movie I ever saw. And that thing practically buried me, dude. I was freaking out. They had to call my mom. My mom tore the Chaperones a new one. And the funny thing is, because honestly, for anybody, obviously you have, but for anybody who hasn't seen that movie, like that's a lot for a 6-year-old to take.
My God.
It's very psychedelic. It's based around succubuses and basilisks and serpents. It's got a lot of phallic imagery as well. It's really hardcore. And that was just a lot to process. And the funny thing is, you'd think it would just be a wrap as far as like me with horror. I just think I needed a little bit more time to mature, because about a year later, for movie day in class back when they probably still do it now, like, hey, y'all have done good all year. We're not going to do any schoolwork today. We're just going to watch a movie. My teacher actually showed Jaws. And the thing that was so funny is this was, the early 80s. Jaws wasn't that old yet. So that movie was still scarring people from even going to the beach. And I was in it. I was in it to win it, man. I saw Jaws and I was like, wait, this giant animal is just, eating people alive. It's fantastic. I love this. I'm super into it. And the funny thing is, I knew that there was a sequel at the time that I watched that movie. And that was the first time I ever saw it. So I was so pissed when they blew off Jaws's head at the end of the movie. I felt so robbed. I was like, how? Because again, I'm like, by this time I'm like 7. I'm like, how am I going to how did you give me a sequel when you blew off his head? Like, how is that even a thing? This ain't Chucky. Like, like how is that a thing? But no, those were the that was the movie for me that really got me back in the day. I love it now. I have a copy of it over in my collection. I think it's fantastic. I've watched it like 100 times by now. I think it's absolutely like super duper awesome for sure. But I definitely wanted to get into a little bit of that fun segment for you with your history of like horror movies, because you've definitely written some great ones and some very cool series as well. But I did want to start off with one that's a little bit more recent, which is this one right here, which is Incubus. Which is funny because the very first time that I ever met Robert Englund, he was actually promoting this movie.
Oh my God, that is awesome! I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, he was on the press tour for this movie. He was at Monster Mania Con, so he was there to meet all the horror fans and stuff like that. But he was talking up his appearance in this movie. That's got like William Forsythe in it also, and it's really really cool. But this is kind of like a detective story, yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, Incubus. First of all, I was so glad that after. Like I worked on the Hellraiser movies. I also worked on the Prophecy 3.
Next segment and the following segment.
Right. Yeah, I worked on the Prophecy 3, which was, if you're familiar with that, Christopher Walken plays the angel Gabriel in this kind of mafia angel army movie. It's crazy. It was great. The first one it was terrific. I mean, the concept is just awesome, and I like the Prophecy 3, but like I worked on that, or Hellraiser 6, Hellraiser 8. And I'm like, oh, good. Like I got to do like I was involved with an original project, and I was so happy about that. And I've always been fascinated by, and that wasn't the first movie idea I came up with about cops versus the supernatural. But I always thought like, all right, here you have people run out of a haunted house. Like, if they don't, they should. Like there's a whole Eddie Murphy joke about that. It's like, get out. Okay. Yeah. Amityville Horror would have been over in like 10 minutes. Get out. Okay. See you later.
Yeah.
Like that to me, that was what, I was like, it doesn't make any sense. However, what if you make it cops? And what if you make the haunted house the precinct house? Like, where are they going to go? They can't go anywhere, and they actually need to like do something about it. So it's like, you can't say, why don't they just leave? It's like they need to like deal with this. you know, and I love the character of Incubus and how he just kind of like gets all of them. Like it's you know, they everybody has their comeuppance in that, and I mean, you know, it's like I'm not going to spoil any endings for you, but I just really enjoyed. And like I said, though, like I've come up with other ideas, but I feel like that was like the perfection of this idea of cops versus the supernatural. You know, I felt like that. I was finally able to tell that story the right way. You know.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, for sure, and it's cool. I love the idea behind the Incubus character. I just think it's really really cool because it's still got that really unique, like, you know, just that Robert Englund-ness to it as well, you know, where, you know, it's very tricky when you also have people playing iconic characters. And Robert, it's a little bit different with him where he's playing a character that does have makeup and all that kind of stuff on him as well. It's definitely different with that versus where you're seeing his face like all the time and stuff. But the one thing that's the next like series that, because I'm a big like Hellraiser guy in general, and I love it. And there's I'll find him. I was like, there's two things that I wanted to kind of get in with this. Is one, yeah, obviously you did there we go. You did Hellseeker, which is number 6, and you did, you know, Hell World, which is number 8. But also, so I'd love to hear definitely a bit about how that went in writing those. But also, there's a movie in between them as well. So whenever you have like your writing broken to a certain degree, how do you have to kind of work with that?
Oh, all right. Well, that's a wild story. If you'll notice, the same director worked on 6, 7, and 8. So, like I said, I wrote this creature horror script after Detroit Rock City, and it got the attention of the people who at Miramax, who were actually as Dimension, which was the horror wing of Miramax. So it got their attention, and it got me some jobs. It got me these. I was a hired gun on Hellraiser 6, Hellseeker, and I was like, I worked with Rick Boda, the director there, on that, and I got the script in like the structure that you see that movie. The structure is basically what I worked on with Rick, and then he brought another writer in, so to do some like fine tuning, which, you know, like that happens. I mean, that's what you know, the director wanted to make sure like his vision was you know, going to be seen. So like I was actually off of that project way before they started doing 7, which was Deader.
Yep.
And Deader was a script that originally did not have Pinhead in it. Pinhead was, I mean, it wasn't a Hellraiser script. They turned it into a Hellraiser script. And with me from the get-go, they knew what they were going to be doing. They had this all like plotted out. But on Hellraiser 8, they had a treatment for a story written by Joel Soisson, he's a producer over there, and he wrote a treatment, and it wasn't Hellraiser. It wasn't even Hellraiser. It was a story that had like the guy Lance Henriksen in Hellraiser 8. He's the guy who plays this character. It had him in it. It had the kids in it. It had this house. But my job on that was to Hellraiserize it. You know, I was the person who kind of injected the Hellraiser universe into that movie, into the treatment rather. And then of course I fleshed out other things. There were a lot of other things that needed to be worked on, but it was because of the work on, you know, the relationship that I had established with Rick on 6. That he called me back on 8, and it was a different situation on Deader. It was just a different situation altogether. But I didn't feel like on 6, I when I was off the project, I said, oh, well, there was my little Hellraiser adventure, but I didn't know they were going to call me back, and did. So I was very happy about that. I do love those movies, and Hellraiser was a movie that I saw when I was when it came out. I saw it on the big screen, and I was just absolutely blown away. And I felt so privileged to be able to contribute to that. Like that's that's part of my legacy now too. It's Clive Barker's invention, but I contributed to it, and it's kind of like Kiss. It's like Kiss. I'm a part of Kisstory, and I'm a part of Headery also. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's great. It's like it really is. It really is awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, I always personally really liked the Hell World movie. I thought it was just very, very interesting. And I like what you did when it came to the story for that, because it kind of has this it's like it's coming out like it's like this giant party in this kind of like castle mansion-y looking place. And then, what kind of seems like Pinhead's just going to come in and wipe the floor with everybody, almost kind of like Hell on Earth style. But you find out that it deals a little bit more with hallucinogens, where these kids are kind of getting picked off one by one. They're being like buried alive in coffins. Like the one they expose the one at the end of the movie whose fingers are just completely like just run down from trying to scratch their way out of the coffin.
Yeah. Oh man. And the girl who's in the electric chair, like actor came up with I had it in there, the characters like not swearing, and she's making a big deal about not swearing.
Oh jeez. Yeah, it's horror movies. It kind of,
she's like, bitch, what? And she's like spewing all these swear words out. That was great. That was great. And the other thing was like for that the mansion that I think the mansion in that is one of like the characters in the movie, and it was something that like the location people found. The movie was made in Romania, and it was a place called the Writer's House, coincidentally, and it was almost like a museum, But it's like a very, very old fashioned like. I don't know, gentleman's place. I almost said gentleman's club. It wasn't like that at all. It was like where they go and they smoke smoke a pipe, and they'll read, they'll read Percy and Shelley. Oh yes, I read the new, whatever, Charles Dickens. They're like reading. It's called the Writer's House, but that's what the purpose was. Where they go and, I don't know, get away from their wives for a little while. I don't know what.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it was a beautiful house. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say stuff like that. It was a beautiful, beautiful place, and they had like this second floor, and it had this this mezzanine looking thing. You saw it in the movie. It was so fantastic, and it was indicative of like the area of Romania. It was Bucharest. Romania that we shot it in was all these old buildings like that. You know what I mean? Like 1700s, 1800s, but like made out of like marble, It's just beautiful, beautiful architecture.
I love all that old kind of stuff. I don't even know if I would even be able to come back. Just be like, this place is just mine now.
Yes.
And before we kick it back up to Angel, he's been very, very patient, so we want to give him again some more time, as well as check on the fans as well. But I did want to ask you, as a final part of this segment, you wrote and directed a short called Urgent. Yes, I did. Yes, and I threw that up on YouTube, but it was the beginning. It was the first 8 pages of a script that I had written. About these 2 EMTs, and it was kind of an answer to like all like the shoot 'em up. You have these like movies where it's like wall to wall action and people are getting shot left and right, Mhm.
And what I wanted to do is a story about EMTs who show up after people get shot, like, and just show that part of it. And it's a comedy, I wasn't going to do it serious, it was a
Yeah.
comedy, but the first scene in it, you meet the characters, and it's kind of like the scene where you're supposed to, like, you bond with these two guys. And basically they show up to a kid's birthday party where the clown has died of a heart attack, and they have and they have to get the clown, like, and it's his birthday is really awkward, and the clown is like on the floor like that, and middle of a routine, and he had too many like hot dogs and cake. He was mixing up the hot dogs and cake, and I don't know what else. But anyway, you have like the shot of the shoes, like the clown shoes like this, and the two guys are walking in, over here, and they load him up in the body bag in front of the kids, and they're like, okay, and then they can't send them down the elevator. I mean, they can't go down the elevator because the elevator is broken. It's just this empty shaft, and so they have to take this clown down the stairs, and it's like a 20-story building, and they're just like, and the clown just starts farting.
Ouch.
You know what I mean? So the clown is just farting, and they're on their way to, and then it keeps farting when it's in the ambulance. But it was one of these things where, the full movie, the full script someday will be written, but that was the beginning of that movie.
Nice.
So it's it's a little bit of like, it's a scary clown story, but in a much different. It's a much different movie, but anyway.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I love the fact that you had the clown die of an accidental overdose of hot dogs and cake.
Yeah, hot dogs and cake, and then it results in his explosive farting later on. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun project.
As if the EMTs didn't have it hard enough with the stairs.
I know. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, and they got to go down the stairs too. And it was a big guy. Deliberately, like, we had to do that. Like, the EMTs are like normal people, and they got this like big guy to lug down the stairs, and it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely,
So
man, for sure. Angel, let's kick it back up to you, buddy. It's all you.
Here's a fun question. Your favorite movie soundtrack?
Besides Detroit Rock City?
Yep.
Yes, that is an excellent question. Yes. Okay. Off the top, right off the bean, Chinatown by Jerry Goldsmith.
All right.
Beautiful soundtrack. I'm sure if I thought I'd get more into, but Jerry Goldsmith and Bernard Herrmann, Psycho. I'd say that's a close second. Bernard Herrmann, Psycho.
Nice.
The question to you is, when you write a book, do you ever have like an alternate ending to how you want the story to end? And would you ever, if you ever have one of your books into a film, would you ever change the ending?
Yes. Those are great questions, and endings. I think I said this earlier, but when I start on a project, I know the ending, and I mean, it's a little bit of I guess what you call I don't know. It's like a starting point. Know the ending is a starting point when you're telling a story, and you can work toward it. The disadvantage to when you're writing and you know the ending is you might give away things along the way because you know the ending. You know what I mean? You might tip your hand a little bit. But I've worked on plenty of projects where by the time I do get to the end, I've already decided I'm going to end it differently. You know what I mean? So the ending changes as I'm moving along. I'm like, maybe I don't want it to end there. Maybe I want it to end here instead. So I have done that. And I don't have official like alternate endings for my stories. I remember, real quick, writing Detroit Rock City. The first draft of Detroit Rock City was the boys split up at the beginning of the story. And I send them off on each of their quests, you know. But I had seen Pulp Fiction, and I really loved like this how there was like this overlapping thing. There was stories going on simultaneously, and I thought Tarantino did a really good job of breaking that. Where you're like, oh wait, that happened in that segment. Oh, now we're in this. And so you start with Hawk, and Hawk goes on his adventure. He winds up at Cobo Hall. Then Lex goes on his adventure. Winds up. You rewind the tape each time. You rewind. You go back to when they break up. You know what I mean? So it's almost like it's not really a time travel thing. It's just like you're going back to the beginning of the story and you're going on another character's story. But I was like thinking maybe there should be like a car accident or something that all four of them see, and they could use as like a point in the middle of each story. Like, oh, you've seen it from Hawk's point of view. Now you say it never took off, but that version had them come to Cobo Hall, and then it was a little bit after that. There was like they were there for the song, but there was more Cobo Hall at the end. Instead, I took it and I made the meat of the story happen before they split up, or I guess half the story takes place before they split up. So it was a slightly different ending. It was like they were going to spend more time at the concert. They were going to be like there when Kiss was playing and doing little things here and there. I mean, kind of separately. You know what I'm saying? Like they get to the concert and they're in the concert and they're doing stuff while Kiss is playing. But I thought and I think everybody thought, and I think it was a really great idea that should just end when they get into the concert and they see Kiss on the stage. Like, yes, that's the end. That's the
especially when they open the doors and they're just coming in, and that's where it actually ends.
Yeah, they come in. Yeah, you see the opening of Detroit Rock City happens, and then it ends. It ends with Jam catching the drumstick from Peter Criss. Peter Criss throws the drumstick. Jam catches that, so that's where it ends. But I thought that was appropriate. That was a good place to stop the story. It felt like that reached the emotional climax and all that stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, today's teenagers will never have that experience of being in line, having to get a ticket, and having physical.
All right. Right. You're absolutely right. And I have memories of standing in those lines. I have memories. That was a whole thing. That was a whole. I almost think that there was a Richard Linklater movie that could have happened. Like if anybody would do it, like he would do it. The guy who made Dazed and Confused and Slacker. Have a whole movie take place in the ticket line. You know what I mean? Because I mean there are things that could happen. I don't know. There's almost like a Seinfeld type thing going on there, I guess too. But like you'd have like an adventure story happen. Like what if you have to leave the line? Like you're waiting and you're getting further and further. Like there's tension that you could have there. But yes, my daughter went to see Taylor Swift, and she when she was buying the tickets, she had to, and I don't think this happens with everybody, but as she's buying the tickets, she's looking and seeing what tickets are available. And they said the tickets will be going on sale in like 60 seconds, 45 seconds. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's some tension there. And then she's like trying to pick seats, but they're all getting gobbled up. So she's got less and less choices, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a suspenseful scene. Yeah. It's not like waiting in line, but I was like, all right, there's some suspense there. You're watching your favorite, like, oh, I'm not going to get any seats on the floor. Oh, no, I'm not going to get any seats in the nosebleed section. I don't know. It's like you just see these blocks disappear.
Yeah. Well, it's also funny, too. Like, speaking of, like, tension and in suspense, I want to ask you about the opening scene of the movie with Lin Shaye, because there's a certain amount of suspense in that you don't realize is coming, because all you're doing is seeing this lady picking out a record, having some wine, playing the record, and then there's just kind of this relaxation moment before the actual loud music kicks in. She chucks her wine up in the air and like,
Yes.
and then she's like freaking out all over her jukebox because she can't figure out how her record player because she can't figure out how to make it stop. Like,
Yes.
what was your thought process behind opening the movie that way?
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So, I thought like it's a way of introducing the theme of the movie, and like I played around with openings. I played around with so many openings to this to that script. And the reason why I settled on it was because it was like, well, number one, it's funny. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing, but I can't just say, "Oh, it's funny." That's why, because yeah, you know, a pelican stepping on a banana peel is funny. But is it going to make any sense in a Kiss movie? No. This had to have Kiss. Number one, it had Kiss. Okay, Kiss is in there. It's loud. But the theme of the movie has to be, there has to be like a prelude or a, like, what am I trying to say? A foreshadowing, I guess. I'm going to use one of these college professor terms, but is a foreshadowing. Like, this is what this movie's about. This lady is all comfortable in a world where, you know, everything is supposed to be just so, and we listen to the Carpenters, we listen to AM radio, we don't bother with this other stuff. That other stuff's the music of the devil, which you don't know yet. That's how she feels. But you see her getting comfortable, and it's like, sorry, like, this stuff is here to stay. This stuff is, and it's going to upset you. It's going to upset your little world, and you just got to learn how to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the movie. That is the movie. So the theme of the movie, hopefully, is summed up in that little bit. But
Right.
It took me so long to find that perfect, like, what's going to do, like, you know, and it's like, it's funny you mentioned it too, because like the whole rest of the movie was written. And I had several ideas for how to open it. But like that was the one, I think I ran it by some people too, that people that I was working with at the time. They're like, yeah, that's funny. That's like a funny thing. I'm describing it to them. I'm like, okay, all right. So it's the old, you know, it worked on all levels. That the opening worked on all levels for me. And by the way, what a blessing. Lynn Shay, come on. To have her play the mom. I mean, speaking of horror too, like good grief. Like there's a crossover. That was a crossover.
2001 like, Maniacs, and now Insidious.
Oh my God. She's done so many great things.
I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street. So many people forget that she was the teacher in that.
Oh yeah. Yes. And at that time, you know what was really funny? At that time, what the thing that she was famous for at that moment was something about Mary. That was the thing. And of course, she was in Kingpin.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the funniest roles. Like, she just would have gifted just totally. But after Detroit Rock City, she's showing up in all this like horror. She did like doing like a string of horror movies, and just what a privilege, what a pleasure.
No, absolutely. And the thing that's also I think is cool about listening to you tell that story, and the fact that you had the movie written and then you were thinking of an intro, because the thing I think is a lot of fun is they reference that scene indirectly about 15 minutes later in the movie, like after the guy stopped freaking out about the fact they thought they lost their Kiss tickets because they were with Jam. You actually hear Giuseppe Andrews say, man, how much does it suck, like having to like stash your Kiss records and like Miley Siren album covers.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. I just thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Miley Siren. I forget the name they used in the movie.
Well, it was the Carpenter.
Carly Simon.
Well, Carly Simon. When you see Carly Simon's record, yeah, that's right. It was Carly Simon. That's right.
Yeah, but I love the fact that they reference it later. That's exactly like how he got busted at band practice.
Yes.
But I also love though when she's driving him to the church or the boarding school or whatever, that gnarly ashtray of cigarettes just right on the dash.
Yes. Yes,
just
I love that.
changed.
People ask me if this was some sort of like Freudian thing with my mom, and I was like, my mom actually, I was only 11 years old when I went to see Kiss on that Alive 2 tour, and I only had two younger brothers, and they were really little. So guess who took me? Guess who took me to see my first Kiss concert? It was my mom. So so Mrs. Bruce definitely was not based on my mom, and my mom was she was very upset because I smoked. I wound up smoking, not at 11, but like I wound up. She was a staunch non-smoker, and she got really upset when I started smoking. So Mrs. Bruce couldn't have been further from the truth, but further from my mom. But I really loved the symbol of the cigarettes and especially I wanted that scene of her lighting their cigarette with the Kiss tickets.
With the Kiss tickets.
Because it's like, look, like the devil takes many forms.
Yeah.
And she's like this super religious, Christian, like just really the right thing, and just totally misguided,
Yeah.
and borderline hypocrite, yes, you know what I mean. But she was super religious, and I was like, well, she's actually the villain in the story. The tickets that were on fire is definitely like that. That was like there's a little nod to like the devil. That's something that the devil would do. That's so. I tried to that the smoking is more of like an irony type thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And before I kick it back up to Angel, because there's just so many amazing scenes that we can talk about, I have to ask you about the ladies' night club with Hawk and Edward Furlong, and the fact that the cougar that wanted Edward Furlong's character was Shannon Tweed, Gene Simmons' wife.
That was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. And I don't know whose idea it was to do that, but that was a stroke of genius. Mm-hmm. That was an absolute stroke of genius. I had no idea. I know a lot of screenwriters who, when they're writing a script, they picture stars playing the roles, and I haven't done that. I have pictures. I usually have pictures of, like I said, real people, like my buddies from high school, like real people in my head, So, and I can't remember who I had in my head for that character, Cougar, who winds up with Hawk, but they get Shannon Tweed in there. I'm like, this could not be more perfect. This really couldn't. I mean, that was just amazing. And just a fantastic job too. Like
I also couldn't help but just laugh hysterical at Ron Jeremy announcing the winner of the contest, and his name was Sirloin.
Sirloin, yes, Sirloin. He was good. Yeah, that was a good role for him. He's like that. This is Hawk, and if you like birds, this is just a swallow. I don't know. He just had. He came up with most of that stuff. Like,
really?
He was riffing. He was doing that. Him and the director Adam Rifkin were they were like doing stuff on. They were doing some improv there that worked. And I mean, like, I love it when that happens. Oh, Angel, you asked me a question before, and I totally spaced out on it. But would I change the ending in the book to fit a movie?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is when if a competent filmmaker, if they were to take my book and make it like if it was Mike Flanagan, say Mike Flanagan, because I love Mike Flanagan. Like the guy who did The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah.
All right, so if he took it, he's like, oh, I like this book, but I want to change the ending. I'd be like, yes, no problem. And the main reason is because that ending is already in the book. It's there forever. It's not going to change. The movie is a different animal. It's the director's project then, So I don't think I would have had the same reaction if I was only a book writer. Most of my experiences have been with filmmaking and the movie industry. So I understand the need to change endings sometimes.
Yeah.
So I would be okay with that. But anyway, back to I'm sorry, I totally spaced on that
No, it's
question.
okay.
Anyway,
Oh yeah, no worries. Go ahead, Angel. Stay with it.
With any feelings about the farewell shows this weekend?
how do I feel about the farewell shows? Oh yeah, no, I mean, this is just like a thing of like you don't want things to end. You don't want. I mean, I didn't want to grow old either, but obviously I got like this gray hair going now. But you don't want things to end, and but by the same token, you don't want things to go on too long either. And it seems to be like, go out on a high note, and they certainly like this is a good time for them. But I don't know. I mean, it's bittersweet. It certainly is. I certainly don't want it to end. I never want any of this to end. Kiss or anything like. I mean, it's been a while since I've been to an arena. I went to see Guns N' Roses about 5 years ago in an arena. It was in a big arena, and the whole experience. Like, I love the concert and all that, but like, just the throngs of people all around and the parking lots, and I did have that feeling of like, I haven't been since. I haven't been to another arena show after that, and it wasn't like terrible. It was just like, maybe my arena phase is over. Maybe I've got like that. What is it? The fear of crowds now. I acquired some agoraphobia. Is that what it's called? I don't know. Anyway, fear of crowds, claustrophobia, I guess. But I think if Kiss went on for another 10 years, they'd still go out on top. I know they're, Gene Simmons was right all those years. He goes, we're the cockroaches of rock and roll. When everybody else is gone, we're still going to be around. You know what I mean? And they lived up to that. They are still here when. Who else is doing it? Is like the Rolling Stones, I guess. The Rolling Stones.
Yeah, they're going on tour next year.
The Rolling Stones are about to go on another tour, man. They've had it. They're probably the only band that's had more farewell tours than Kiss.
Right? Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I was about to say because I got my Kiss T-shirt back there. It says farewell tour 2000. Though I saw them at Dodger Stadium back in '98. And that was supposed to be a farewell tour, and I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad they kept going, and you've got like several generations of Kiss fans now as a result, and it's really wonderful. And I don't know. I guess I am feeling kind of bittersweet about the whole thing. You want them to go on forever, you really do. But that's sometimes just not in the cards. Well, I guess it's not the cards at all, because like I'm sure there are people. I mean, my mom wishes that Frank Sinatra was still around. You know what I mean? But just like the course of nature. I'm not sure what they're gonna, but how like just going off on a little tangent about AI. I wonder if like it would be possible for people to go see a Kiss show in like 100 years. Just something that was created by AI, and holograms, and I'm sure like it would be it would look 100% real. Like at the rate that they're going, it could make it look like that 77 stage with the two tigers, and those got the risers just going up, like those hydraulic lifts with Gene and Paul just going up,
Well, I'm sure it'll happen. Rest assured, Gene will copyright it.
Yes. He's good. That way, that's great. It was a brilliant idea, and like there's a lot of if you're gonna do something like that, you might as well reap the rewards.
Absolutely.
Totally.
No, 100%. No, for sure. Fans, I'm going to interject real quick here, guys. It is last call for alcohol, fans. Any final questions, comments, things you want to say to Carl, or anything you want to ask him about what he's doing now, what he's been doing, Detroit Rock City, or any of his horror activities? Now's the time to get them into the comments. We're definitely going to get to all of them. But if you got anything you want to say, silence equals happiness, and we can't ask it if we don't see it. So go ahead and shoot it in, fans, at your convenience. Last call for alcohol when it comes to comments and questions for Carl. Right back up to you, Angel.
I was going to kick it right back up to you.
To me? No worries. Absolutely. Carl, tell us a little bit about the 13th floor asylum.
Oh, yeah. The 13-story asylum.
Story asylum.
Yeah. Excuse me. It's I wrote 2 books, and they're both short story compilations. The first one is a 12-story asylum. And it has 12 stories in it. So, and it's various horror, science fiction, and fantasy stories, just one-offs, all of them. And they're kind of like, I took the lead from my favorite Stephen King. Well, it's the first Stephen King book. It was the first short story compilation I read, and it was Night Shift. And it definitely is one of my favorite Stephen King books, but it's a collection of short stories. And it was like, if I ever do a book, I'd want to do a book like this. They're all like, they're kind of like, they're just horror stories. They're like, EC Comics, Twilight Zone, shock ending, or at least very disturbing ending stories, trying to leave people with something to think about. So I did that. I did a 12-story asylum, and then the 13-story asylum, because I wanted to change things up a little bit, not make it sound too. I didn't want to say a 12-story asylum 2 or a 12-story asylum +1. So the 13-story asylum has 13 more stories in it, and more of, my specific twisted brand of storytelling. And I started out, all the stories are very well, they're not all short. They're like the first bunch are very short, and then they get longer and longer as they go along. I think the last story is about 30 pages, but like the first one's 3 pages, and then you work your way up. But just a homage to all my, like growing up and just loving that. And my brain seems to like short storytelling. And there's an element of that even in like screenplays, which is why it's so tough to, like, a novel is a huge, vast experience, and a movie, I don't know if you noticed, but a movie is more of like a short story.
Yeah.
It's like it's got even if it's sprawling and epic, it's not covering too much. It's not covering as much ground as a novel does. A novel has that ability of becoming. You can just get inside somebody's head for like 4 or 5 pages. You can't do that in a movie. You know what I mean? You have to just keep things going. And you can have constant like flashbacks in books, and you can have 100 characters if you wanted to. I think it would get kind of like the average reader might get a little lost if you had that many characters, but you could do it. Whereas with movies, you've got to keep things simple and slim and short and succinct and to the point. And that's why I do like writing short stories, because I consider a screenplay to be sort of a really long haiku. There's a formula. There has to be this many things. You don't, if you're reading a screenplay, if anybody says, hey, can you read my screenplay? And you're reading it, and then you're like, okay, this is okay. Then you get to this page, and you're like, there's a scene that's like 15 pages long, and it's all dialogue. Like, to me, like being a screenwriter, I know like that's going to need to be cut down. That's like, you just gotta like, it's like a diamond. You know what I mean? It's a good screenplay is like a polished diamond. It's very exact. Whereas a novel, you can write a 1,000-page novel. You can write a 200-page novel. If it's good, it's good. You know what I mean? The audience will be with you. And Stephen King, he writes a lot of his books are extremely long. I don't know if you remember. Did you ever read? If you've ever read him, The Stand is a like 1,100-page book. 1,100 pages, and I read it when I was a little kid. Like when I say little, I mean probably 13 years old. But I ripped through that thing. I ripped through it, and I still can't believe like I was able to read that whole thing. But it was like 1,100 pages. I'm like reading like this.
Yeah, and
Because the guy knows how to do it. He knows how to tell a story. But you can get away with that with a novel. You can't.
Yeah, I mean the book. I mean the book. It wasn't that far behind The Stand in size. That thing's long too, for sure. Did you ever read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
Yes, I did. Yes. Oh my God, that was another one. Yeah. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. That's actually a pretty good companion piece to Night Shift, I think. Brilliant stuff, and it proves that you can really scare people in just a few pages.
Yeah,
if you know how to do it, if you can do it right, flash fiction.
Yeah,
you can there's like groups. There's like a Reddit group, I think. Probably a ton of them, but 2-sentence horror stories. I love those. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. The two-sentence horror stories. Those
I am for sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah. No, absolutely. For 12th story and 13th story, are they physical copies? Are they things that people can order?
Yeah, such a bad sales rep for my own wares here, but
me and Angel have you covered on that one. We always make sure that we get to plugs and websites and where you can be found.
Well, my website is carlvdupre, all one word, .com. And then you'll find links to purchase my books, but they are available on Amazon. So you can search. You can do that too. You can search my name, or you can search A 12-Story Asylum in books, 13-Story Asylum in books. A 12-Story Asylum is also available as an audiobook, voiced by yours truly, which I will probably never do again because writing's easy. Doing voice acting is not easy, and I would probably get an actor to do 13 if I ever wanted to do that. But yes, I narrated my own audiobook, and they're also available on Kindle, and Oh, yep. Wow, there you go. He's got it.
It's right on Amazon.
Yep. And
makes a great Christmas gift.
Yes.
Nice. Yes, they make great Christmas gifts. A 12-story sound. Why not get both of them for that horror lover? Or if you don't like someone and you want to scare them, feel free to do that with my blessing.
Exactly. Go ahead and bring that guilt to my conscience.
Yes. Yes.
I would have no guilt.
Horror as a weapon. Yeah.
Hey, Carl, if the books are ordered from your website, do they come from you? Do fans have the option of getting books signed by you?
No, they don't. But I mean, it's a unique request for sure. My website leads to the Amazon pages, basically.
Oh, gotcha.
But that's not to say, I mean, if someone wants to send me something with a self-addressed stamped envelope in it to sign, I'll return it to you. You know what I mean? I'll sign it. I'll be happy to, and I mean, I love doing that. I can't tell you how many Detroit Rock City scripts, I wound up doing that for. It was during Incubus. There was a couple of those, a couple of movies, Hellraisers. You know what I mean? It was. I love doing that. Because it's the fans. It's all about that.
No, absolutely, for sure. And as like a fun part of this segment, before I send it to Angel for any kind of final questions before we wrap everything up, when you just when you look back on everything. Because not only between the writing, you've been involved in just some other very just cool franchises. I mean, Scream is still kicking, and you go back to Scream 2 when it comes to with that. And there was also Mimic, which had a series of movies. But when you just take a look at your own personal history and everything that you've gotten to be involved with up until the present, how do you look back on how you've changed and progressed?
Well, I am, I said earlier about being lucky, but I really, I really love just being able to have my name as a part of these things. And I think back on like how I got involved and just, you're talking about Scream, that my now ex-wife, she worked on the first Scream movie with some people, and when Scream 2 came along, they called her, and she was whatever, she was 9 months pregnant. Oh no, I'm sorry, she wasn't 9 months pregnant. That was the premature one. But anyway, she was pregnant and she couldn't work. But she was like, hey Carl, do you want to work on with these guys? This was actually for Mimic. I'm sorry, I'm screwing stories up here. Scream, she worked on. Then when Mimic came out, they called her, but she threw that to me, and then I got in with these guys, and that's what led to all the horror stuff. Actually, even like the Hellraiser and the Prophecy stuff wouldn't have happened if I wasn't on Mimic. If I wasn't an assistant editor on Mimic. And I got to party with Guillermo del Toro. That was an amazing time. That guy knows how to party. Holy crap!
That dude's
I know
house is out of sight.
I may have gotten him in his heyday, but he was the type of guy, like, we would be in a hotel in New York and we'd have a screening the next day, and it'd be 4 o'clock in the morning, and we'd be like on the table, like, Guillermo, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. We had a screening tomorrow. This is when they had the big cans of film that we had to get. And this guy was like, oh man, the night's just getting started. Come on. He had like 2 bottles of beer like this.
Oh my God.
He was an animal, but he was brilliant. He was a brilliant, I mean, of course, brilliant guy. But then Mimic led to Scream 2. And that was a privilege being, on that franchise. And it's still going today. And I worked on Barbed Wire. Can you believe that? The Pam Anderson movie?
Yeah.
It's a very small feather in my cap. No, I'm just kidding. That's legend now. That's lore.
No, for sure. When you were writing for Prophecy 3, did you get to spend any extended time with Christopher Walken? Because I've always been curious how that cat is in real life.
Yeah, no, I didn't. The burden or the curse, I guess, of being a screenwriter is, and I think maybe the WGA has fixed this over the years, but at that time, the writer wasn't really like, well, I mean, I shouldn't say unwelcome on the set, but the writer was not encouraged to be on the set. What the writer did was the writer wrote, and now here's your check. Thank you for the script. We're going to go make the movie now. Bye. Sure. That's the way things work. So I was not, who I met Vincent Spano. That's who I met.
Okay. Nice.
I'll just, yeah, Christopher Walken, being able to write dialogue for Christopher Walken. That was, I remember watching that movie, and he delivers like these lines of them. Like, I wrote that, and those words came out of Christopher Walken's mouth, and I wrote them. That's like, I got the power. I don't know. Yeah. It's a little delusion of grandeur there.
Right.
And real quick, I went to the Scream 2. I think the Scream 2 rap party was probably like one of those high points, because I got to be there with like Sarah Michelle Gellar and everybody, all the Sydney, Gail Weathers, the guy who did The Voice,
Roger Jackson.
Roger Jackson was there.
Yep.
What's your favorite scary movie?
David Arquette.
Just what a ride! What an awesome, incredible ride that was. And lest I forget, Wes Craven. I went out to lunch with Wes Craven and the other guys in the editing room, and he'd just like tell us stories, and he'd just be saying things that happened on sets of movies that I watched when they came out, like, oh yeah, on whatever, the people under the stairs, this happened, and yeah, Mitch Pileggi was really great to work on Shocker, and I'm like, I can't believe like this guy's just rolling off these little anecdotes, these movies that I saw when I was a kid. I just like mind blowing.
No, absolutely, man, for sure. And just I mean, that was also just such an incredible cast when it came to Scream, because you also had David Arquette, of course, because
Oh yeah,
that's what led to their marriage and stuff like that. So all of that
absolutely.
was super duper cool for sure. But Angel, has anything final popped up from any of the Metal Summoners or any of the Kiss faithful?
What can we expect from you in the next year as far as projects?
Well, I am still writing stories. We'll see if you get a 14-story asylum. I don't know yet if I'm going to do that, but I am working on several horror projects at the moment with a producer from Rhode Island, and we're getting our act together there. But hopefully in the next year you'll see one of these projects take shape. And they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool little, more like psychological. They're more like psychological thrillers, actually. Nice. So, but scary. They're scary. Not out and out horror yet. But I got some things cooking too. Got some ideas.
Nice.
To scare people. It seems to be what I do. It seems to be where I go where the muse takes me, But
absolutely, 100% for sure. Angel, anything final from yourself, my friend?
That question was from me.
No.
Awesome. All right. Brilliant.
Carl, we can't thank you enough, man, for spending a nice chunk of your early evening out in Cali with us. Like, it was super fun. It was super insightful and just an all around good time for us. But the biggest thing that's always super important for me and Angel is how you felt. Like, did you have a good time? Did you feel that it was worth it? And did you enjoy the questions you were asked and feel respect?
Oh yes, I could talk about me all night. It's like, enough about me. What do you think of me? That kind of thing. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad. You guys jogged my memory on a few things that I hadn't thought about in a long time, and got my mind moving in some directions that I hadn't thought about. So we'll see. That Hell's Bells story.
Yes.
I don't know. Might be something there.
Yep. And for what it's worth, Trick or Treat, I still think has got the best soundtrack of all the movies out there. And I will say though, Freddy vs. Jason had a bitchin' soundtrack. It was really, really good. That's probably the other one that I think is great.
Horror movies have, it was Scream had a great soundtrack too. That was they had some really good songs in that, and Scream 2 also. But I mean, like, you find like these horror movies have, like, you're finding these like really wonderful songs, buried treasures, really.
Yeah, the Crow movies were great for that.
Oh yeah, the Crow,
the big
that was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, hold on. I had one question that popped up.
Sliding in the back door.
What is the
one? Yeah, go ahead. No, what is the one film that made you want to be in the business? It's the one film that made me want to be in the business. It would have to be the first one I saw, and that would be Godzilla versus Monster Zero, aka Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. So it was another Godzilla movie. I saw it in the theater. I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and I was sitting in that, and I was watching this stuff, and I was like, I want to be a part of this. How do I sign up for this? I'm like 6 years old or whatever. Like, how do I get in on this? This looks really awesome. Everything was so huge too, It was like, so Godzilla versus Monster Zero. I don't know if that satisfies you, and which film would you have loved to worked on but didn't? Oh, that really is a great question. Oh my God. There's so many movies out there that I'm going to just like, I mean, this is the first movie that comes into my head that like has all the elements of a movie that I would have wanted to work on as Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters. Nice. I mean, that movie to me is like, the more time that goes by, especially, everything is in that movie. Like, it's got the comedy, it's got the heart, great script, great directing, great acting. I mean, like, a lot of people overlook this, but those actors were like I mean, everybody just did the top-notch job, and editing and music. You know, that was I guess that would be my dream movie that I wanted to work on but couldn't.
I would love to have worked on Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, yes. They got that one's coming out. Beetlejuice Ghost. Yes. Gotta do it.
So excited.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
just like kind of a curiosity question, what do you think of like franchise of these two specific franchises? Saw, where you've got that type of psychedelicness, you know, that we talked about earlier, mixed with a heavy bloodlust, and also Terrifier, which has got a real comedy aspect to it, mixed with a hell of a bloodlust.
Yes. I like that. I like that mashup.
Mhm.
That's a pretty cool mashup.
Yeah.
Art the Clown. Good grief! Like, how did that guy do it? Don't tell me, Damon Leone. I think it's Damon Leone. I've only seen the first two. I haven't. Well, I mean, I haven't seen Terrifier 2 yet. I saw All Hallows Eve, which has the introduction of Art the Clown. That I saw Terrifier, and I'm like, where has this character been all my life? This is like Buster Keaton and Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers all rolled into one. He never says a word. It's like, that's all, you know, sort of Silent Bob, you know, just like in the back, like sometimes in the background, just like doing all this stuff that like, and yeah, I mean, there's a guy, Damon Leone. I mean, you can tell there's a guy who loves movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, he loves 80s horror. I mean,
Yes.
definitely. That is a wonderful Valentine to 80s horror.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those Terrifier movies are like, I couldn't believe, like, oh, they totally captured it. They captured the whole vibe. But it also, you know, they're going back to like silent movies too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
With that character. Just with that character is like, that's a character that's going to be around forever. Art the Clown.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I'm all about like that old school stuff. Like, I'm a hardcore vampires guy. I love Dracula. I love Nosferatu and stuff like that. But Megan does not do clowns, but she tolerates Terrifier because of how much I love it. I'll send you these pictures sometime. This wall in my living room's got so much like Terrifier shit from cons I've went to and stuff I've gotten signed.
Oh, nice.
And I was originally going to redesign my living room wall, where it's the wall right above the couch. And I was like, I don't know if you want to do that, bro. You guys sleep on the couch a lot. And that's a lot of crazy stuff for her to wake up to and see first. So it's like off to the side. Like, it's actually on the wall above my computer here. But I've got like just all this crazy stuff. And the cool thing is that the scores for the Terrifier movies are done by Paul Wiley from Marilyn Manson.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool. All right.
Yeah.
I gotta, it makes me want to like listen to that music again. It makes me want to watch it. Actually, yeah, I gotta watch Terrifier 2. Actually, I really want to see that.
Absolutely, for sure. But Carl, let's let you enjoy the rest of your evening, my friend. We really, really appreciate you so much, man. And again, we're super stoked that you had a good time, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's my privilege being on here, and you know, thank you to all the fans out there. All right, yes,
absolutely, for sure. Metal Summoners, thank you guys. Oh, absolutely, man, for sure. Metal Summoners, thank you guys so much. Kiss Army, thank you guys so much for your support of Detroit Rock City, but also your continued support of the band. And we really appreciate you guys tuning in and rocking out with this little Kiss tribute show as they get ready to hit the end of the road with 2 shows coming up tomorrow and Saturday in New York City at Madison Square Garden. So Kiss Army, have yourselves a blast. Metal Summoners, if you guys are checking it out, be good, be careful, be safe, and have a great time as well. Guest announcement over the weekend, but we will see you guys in a week for another episode of the Metal Summit. We'll be right back on our regular night of Wednesday night. So we will see you guys really, really soon. Thank you so much to Angel and the rest of the team for allowing us to pump a day off in order for me to go and enjoy Kiss one more time myself. And so I really appreciate the guys for that. But anyway, Metal Summoners, we love you guys. This show is for you, and we appreciate all the support that you give us. Have a great rest of your weekend. Be good to each other. Take care of each other, and have a great one. Guest announcement, support Carl and all of his future endeavors with everything that he's got from the upcoming horror stuff, as well as his current books and his back catalog. You can follow Angel Alamo at Angel Alamo 78 on Instagram, and you can also find him on Facebook, and you can find me on Instagram at Just a R&R Junkie, as well as my Salem J page on Facebook and my personal page as well. But take care, guys. We love you. We'll see you guys in a week. As always, you've been watching the Metal Summit.